Hey guys, I'm Jeff Patterson, this is Eric Nelson. Today we're going to look at a few techniques off of our curriculum, starting with the shoulder stack, and look at some details to kind of help make it a little bit more effective. Talk about some body structure alignment things that you can do to maintain control through the pass. So we're going to start where, if you can lay down here and put me in your guard. When we're in this position, if my knees are out like this, it's a lot easier for him to break my posture and bring me forward. So I want to stack my knees under his hips a little bit, and that's going to bring his body up and make it more in a straight line position, which is harder for him to use his hips. Second, we're going to talk about our grips. Now, when I grab with one hand, I will either always grab the same side lapel, or sometimes it's okay to grab both sides lapel. Either one here is okay. Usually I just prefer the one side because I feel I can get a more solid grip here. When I'm grabbing the lapel, you don't want to grab up here because this brings your head forward too much. I want to grab right here underneath the sternum, and so I can also use my fist kind of underneath those ribs. So if he pulls me forward, I can push into his ribs with my fist. Now, not only can I pull him to keep him close, but I can also push him to keep me from coming forward. So this is a good control. Keep the elbow down. In this hand here, I'm going to use to pop the legs open. And when we do this, I'm also thinking about my lower spine, and I'm pushing the small of my back outward as I pop the legs open. Now from here, I'm going to take the hand underneath, slide it down to the mat. Now, here, a lot of times I hear people say that you're vulnerable for the triangle choke. If you know how to do this pass well, you don't need to worry about the triangle choke. One is I'm covering this leg with my arm on this side. And two, if he tries to pop this up to go to the triangle choke, I want it on my shoulder because now I have a lot more power here. I reach around and I grab, step up, and then change my angle. So now if you look at me from the side, this back leg is driving into the mat, and oftentimes I'll use this as kind of like a wedge to get under his hips, and now it's preventing him from being able to move his hips. He's kind of stacked up in this position. Then my hand position here is kind of like I'm pulling a rope. I'm going to cinch that down until I get right across his throat and put a little bit of pressure on him and make him very uncomfortable here. I want to put his knee in his face. And a lot of times when you get in this position, one of the mistakes I see people do is they get here and they just kind of throw the knee off the head, and then they recover guard. Now you're battling guard again. But if you get to this position and you stack him up and put that knee in his face and take your time here, now when I pop that leg off, watch what my left arm, this arm here, is going to do. I'm going to slide that right across into the neck. I've still got this control here, and as I come around and switch into my crossbody position, keeping that pressure down, and now I've got everything closed up. This hand is palm down, checking the hip. My shoulder's tight on the bottom, so his arm's kind of stuck out here, and it's hard for him to get in. I'm driving with this foot on this side, and I've got a good tight crossbody control. I can switch and drive on this side as well. And so the transition going from inside the guard to crossbody is real important. You don't want to get in too much of a hurry there because you don't want to give him any space or possibility to recover guard. So this video, we're going to look at crossbody escapes. We're going to talk about some details in our basic elbow escape, but we're going to look at a lot of details that aren't so basic. So pay attention, try to adapt some of these in your pass. So the first thing we're going to do is just talk about our basic crossbody controls from the bottom. So a lot of times he gets on top, he's in that crossbody position. If I'm just laying here on my back, I'm just kind of waiting for him to attack. I want to start almost attacking from this position. So I want to think about, can you get up for a second? Sure. In Jiu Jitsu, we like to break our body down into 4 quadrants. So we divide at the waist, we divide at the center. And when I talk about like my lower quadrant here, it's my hip, my thigh, my knee, my calf, my foot. I've got my quadrant here. I've got the quadrant up here, and down the arm is not just this arm. it's my rib cage, it's my shoulder, it's my lat, it's the back of my shoulder, my bicep, my tricep, my elbow, my forearm, and my hand. So I've got all 4 of these quadrants that always need to be actively engaged, and especially when I'm defending, if I've got any one of them falling asleep, I'm possibly giving them a place to attack or an extra leverage point, which makes it easier for him to control me. So when we're on the bottom, the first control point is this arm here. And if we spin this way a little bit, this arm, I never want to be in like this, because if I'm in like this, go very slowly. If he turns his hips and drops them down, it's very easy for me to injure my elbow here. And it's a tight control, and then my arm's kind of stuck in that position and I can't get it out. So I like to put the bone of my elbow on this upper part of my arm and use that as a frame right inside the hip pocket here. Now if he were to sit out, I can slide that arm out and my arm is safe, and I can still kind of control his body a little bit with this quadrant. Come back, please. That's our first control. Our second control, my preferred position with this arm, is in the armpit. I'll spin this way a little bit. Now, with this hand here, I can pull the arm and I can push the arm. So I can use this to attack this arm over here. With this leg here, if this arm is in my hip, the pressure of this leg is going to be starting to attack the arm. If he gives me room, I'll start putting pressure on his thigh, femur to femur, and start attacking the leg here with this one. This foot here has to be pressured in, and I want to walk it out a little bit, so now it's at an angle. If I'm like this, let me roll up on my side. If my foot is here and he pushes my back down, it's pretty easy for him to flatten me out. But if I'm like this and I put this foot out and he pushes, I've got good power here. So it's easier for me to maintain that structure and get on my side, because on my bottom, when I'm on the bottom position, I don't want to be flat on my back. I want to try to be up on my side, using all 4 of these quadrants, looking to attack, to look for the pass. So when he's on top, I get all 4 of my quadrants engaged. And now the first pass that we're going to look at is, let's spin this way, please. All the way down. All right, so the first pass that we're going to do here is, how do I get past this far side arm? So there's a couple ways. Actually, let's go back just a quarter turn. So when I'm trying to attack this arm, I can move my hips out and get in front of the arm. But one that I like a little better and I use a lot is, I'll attack the elbow with the hand and I'll attack the wrist with the leg. Now I collapse the arm. Once I collapse the arm, I bring this knee inside. And oftentimes, I don't want to have to bring my knee all the way back here to get it inside. If his leg is down like this, sit down on your heels for a second. It's a lot harder, just sit up for a second. It's a lot harder for me to get the knee here than it is to come over the top and drop it in here. And now I can also use this hook. So I've got good control with this leg. My knee is on the inside of the thigh. So when we're doing this pass, I pass this arm, I swing that leg over. Now I'm going to push that thigh out a little bit. This leg can come up and bite the hip, or it can just slide down and trap that leg. Come through, walk up, and recover my guard position, looking for my attacks. All right, let's do it again. When I'm doing the elbow escape, one thing I like to do is I like to get the weight out of his knees. So if I upa and I bridge a little bit, I can make his hands go down. And one thing I see happen a lot in this position, let's turn this way. One thing I see happen a lot in this position is you'll see somebody upa, they'll get a good bridge, he'll put his hands on the mat, then they'll set their hips back down, and then he'll pop right back up again. So here, what I like to do is I upa to get his hand on the mat, and now notice how I'm keeping this hip lifted, making that hand go on the floor. If he picks that hand up, then I give him a little bit more, and I make it difficult for him to pull that hand off the mat. So once I have him in that position, now anytime I'm attacking and going for the elbow escape, probably the most important thing is being sensitive enough to feel where the weight is in his knees, because almost always, especially if I have one hip up, there's going to be one knee that's light and one knee that's heavy. And right now he's kind of heavy on the far side from the camera here. This knee's light. So this is the knee that I will attack. And when I'm attacking the knee, the first variation that we're going to look at is I'm just going to push that leg down. I wrap it up and I hook, get up on my side, strip out, and pull guard position. All right, let's go back. Now, a lot of details on this one. So when, again, we're controlling the guard, a lot of times for him, he's got his knees under my hips. Okay, so if I'm in this position, it's hard for me to pull him down. So one of the things that I can do here is kind of come off to the side a little bit and put my hand on the knee, and then I move my hips over and bring him back down. Now I've got his knees open, and I created an opportunity for me to control his posture a little bit better. And this is very important. I want to kind of use my hips like a wedge and also use that hand to open the knees up. Once I have this, now I always like to go for a double attack. So he's pretty low, so right now I was able to slide this in very easy. Sometimes you get people that are taller, and the most I can get is a grip down here around the chest. So from here, slide up to the elbow. Nothing is stopping me from coming to him. So now, even if he's pushing on my belly, I can still come up to that elbow while he's pushing here. Now I've got this good grip. Now from here, I'm going to grab the sleeve. Sometimes I'll grab behind the elbow here. Once I have this, walk the legs up a little bit. Now notice how his head comes down. Personally, I prefer going for chokes from the guard position. But in this video, we're going to talk about the arm bar. And it's important to have the threat of the choke, I feel like, when you're going for the arm bar, to give you more opportunities to get the arm bar. One of the reasons why I like the choke a little better is because if you miss the choke, they're still in your guard. If you miss the arm bar and you don't make it successful, a lot of times they're halfway out and passing. So when we set up the arm bar, we're going to do everything we can to try to keep it as tight as possible so they don't have the option to get the pass. So as I break his posture and come down, I'm going to bring this foot and put it in the hip. This leg, I want to get it up as high in that armpit as I can, and this arm is kind of pulling the head down, so I'm controlling that. This hand is going to push across, and then from here, now I've got this arm pretty stuck. If I'm using this leg to squeeze behind the shoulder, and I've got his arm turned here and I'm pulling his neck down, even without this hand, try to pull the arm out, it's pretty tight. So from here, I'm going to take the hand in front of the face and push his head away a little bit. Kick the leg over, make the legs parallel, squeeze the heels down, grab the meat of the thumb. I can keep this hand on the neck, or I can bring it down and then slowly lift the hips to make him tap. Again, oftentimes the person on the bottom, if he's trying to be defensive with this hand, he's going to have it hidden in my armpit. So when I'm in this position here and I want to attack that arm, I got to figure out some ways to get that arm free. Let's turn this way a little bit. Good, thank you. Now from here, what I like to do is I'll grab the lapel or the sleeve behind the elbow and just anchor it down to the body. So that way, as I move, it's hard for him to move the arm forward because I've got it anchored in nice and tight here. Now, the first one that I'm going to show you is I switch my base, and now I'm going to bring this elbow back, and I'm going to shave it across the body with a can opener to free that arm. That's one way to clear the arm. Another option we can do here is I keep this anchor inside, back up a little bit and drop my forehead into the crook of the elbow. Then I take that can opener and I shave and bring the arm out to the other side. Okay, either one of those, whichever you like, you can play them both. Once I clear that arm and I get that through, for this attack, I want the arm on my head side neck. And always when I say head side, foot side, that's referring to me on him. So that my head side shoulder is where his head is, my foot side shoulder is where his feet are. So when I'm in this position, I'm trapping it on head side shoulder, and I'm going to grab my lapel and cinch it down. Now when we're doing this here and I'm cinching this arm down, I don't want to be too high up on the arm. I'd like to get down underneath the shoulder and cinch that down. Now I can control his body a little bit. This hand is on the near side, checking the hip. I'm going to slide my foot side knee up into the armpit, so I'm kind of controlling that bottom arm of his. Step over the head, and now this leg is making a wedge behind his shoulder to help prevent him from rolling that arm back down to the mat. Then from here, I slide up a little bit and bring the bone of my forearm right underneath the elbow. Because if I stay low now, he can pass the arm in front of my face. Now I have counters to this, but at the same time, I'm going for the arm bar. I don't want to have to counter. So I'm going to slide down and cinch it up here. Now when I'm in this position, I can also use my thigh here to apply pressure on the back of the shoulder, and I'm squeezing my neck to my shoulder. And now sometimes here, I've even had people tap just from this. This is pretty tight. Can you pull the arm out here, sir?
No.
So this is a very tight control. Now, I'm just going to shave this knee right up the back, turn, sit, come down, and now I've got my arm bar here nice and tight. Okay, let's look at that again.